ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Thursday, May 4th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Happy Star Wars Day for those of you who enjoy a good pun. We'll get your text in this hour. 304-396-TALK. That's 304-396-8255. We got a lot to get into today. Do want to hear from you. It's been quiet, though. I'll say this. A couple days ago, we saw a little movement from the transfer portal. It's been quiet. I'm good with that. The only thing that I caught yesterday was that Marshall defensive lineman Gabe Elrod entering the transfer portal. If you don't remember him, defensive lineman for the Thundering Herd, wore number 97. He was a 350-pounder, 6'3". Did join the Thundering Herd as, I believe, a preferred walk-on from Troy. And he put it out on Twitter that he is interested in transferring to another school. So he's put himself in the transfer portal. So it was light. It was quiet yesterday. Haven't seen much movement since. I think for the most part, if a player is going to go in the transfer portal, we pretty much know it now, unless, just trying to figure out if that's the best path forward for yourself. You haven't committed just yet. So that's what we're looking at right now. I'll take that. It's quiet. It's calming down right now. And we'll see how the Thundering Herd continues to work the portal to try to fill spots, to bring players in, talent in that's going to make the team better. So that's pretty much going to be our offseason right now, right? Just looking to see where the next commitment comes from. And I know there's been a lot of speculation about certain players that might be leaving due to name, image, and likeness. And, of course, as I've been told before, and I'll go by that, it's not official until it's official. And do you think name, image, and likeness is really killing the sport, or at least at the mid-major level? I want to get your thoughts on that today. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That number again, 304-396-8255. We got basketball and hockey to talk about today. Philadelphia 76ers lost 121-87 in the NBA playoffs. We got Game 2 coming up tonight between the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. Lakers lead that series 1-0. I had a texter write in and say that they were calling it now, that the Lakers are going to win the NBA Finals, but they want to qualify it, that they're a Derrick Rose fan. And go Knicks. I used to like the Knicks. I still like the Knicks. I used to like the Knicks. I liked the Knicks when Rick Pitino was the coach. When I was younger, I liked the Knicks. I gravitate towards most of the New York teams. Not in baseball and not in football, but I like most of the New York teams. I like the Knicks. I do like the Rangers. That's well established here. I'm okay with the Mets. I'm okay with the Yankees. But if I was going to root for a team, it would be those two in NBA and NHL. Also, I'm not going to lie to you, I kind of like the Giants. Not I'm going to root for them over, say, the Bengals. Bengals are my team. But if I was looking for a team, I definitely would take the Giants over the Jets. Not necessarily a Jets fan. Aaron Rodgers, doesn't matter. I'm not a Jets fan. I like the Lakers' chances, though. But I'd like to see Lakers and Knicks. That's the NBA final I want to see, Lakers and Knicks. We might get Lakers-Celtics. How about that? I'd be down for that. Text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. It's open, by the way, all throughout the show. So, we'll go there. When you come in with something, we'll go to it. Texter just wrote in and said, Stephen F. Austin, wide receiver, looks like a good pickup for the Herd. I agree. I absolutely agree. I think Marshall has been doing some good things as of late for the transfer portal, and I think you're going to see more. I like Coach Huff's philosophy. Does that player make us better? I don't think they're just going after players to say, okay, we need wide receivers, but if there's a player there that's going to make the team better, you might as well go after them. I 100% agree with that assessment. So it was a good day a few days ago for the Thundering Herd, picking up a few players. Absolutely. And the player in question is Darrell Simmons. That's the player, that's the wide receiver that the texter is saying is a good pickup. I had to go back and double-check his numbers. He had 23 receptions for 249 yards, 1 touchdown. In 2021, he had 15 receptions for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he tweeted out on May 2nd that he thanked his coaching staff at Stephen F. Austin. Then he announced he will be playing his last season of college ball at the University of Marshall. That's the one thing we got to get these kids to understand. It is not the University of Marshall. It is not University of Marshall is not a thing. It is Marshall University. So I'm sure someone will get to him real quick if they haven't already. But I laugh sometimes. I see those tweets. I'm going to be playing my college ball at the University of Marshall. And it hasn't happened just one time. It happens frequently. Kids hear Marshall, and they don't know it's Marshall University, not University of Marshall. That's okay. He'll learn. He'll pick it up. But I agree with Texter. That's a good pickup. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We'll get your text in this hour. We got baseball to follow today. We've got softball to follow today. We've got all of that. The baseball team losing to Virginia Tech yesterday. Back in action on Friday. Softball is in action against Georgia Southern. So we'll talk about that with you. We'll update you on everything that happened in the NBA and also the NHL. We had baseball earlier today right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. The Pirates losing, unfortunately, getting swept. It was an exciting finish, but the Rays held on to beat the Pirates 3-2. And Zach Eflin, he had a performance. He pitched 7 scoreless innings. Struck out 10. He allowed just 3 hits. And the Rays, if you look at what they're doing right now, they're going to be tough to beat. They have scored 210 runs, allowed only 96 runs, and hit 67 homers. That's the most in Major League Baseball. And the Pirates have lost a season-high 4 straight games now. They're still leading the NL Central, but they have lost 4 straight. While the Rays are off to their best start through 32 games since the 1984 World Series champion Detroit Tigers. That's pretty good stuff. So next up for the Pirates, they'll start against Toronto. That'll be on Friday night. We'll have it for you right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. More text coming in, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says that NIL isn't necessarily killing the sports world. Money does talk, though. As a fan, NIL will give us the new EA Sports College Football Video Game Summer 2024. That's a positive from it. I like where you're going with this. That's something that many a kid definitely disappointed in. It was always fun. For me, especially when I was younger, it was more fun when I was younger. What are you talking about? It's more fun now. When I was younger, it was more fun to get the college game than Madden. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed Madden. Everybody enjoys Madden. But for me, it was the college game. I had to get that one. And there was competition for a while. I mean, when you had the PlayStation and the Sega Dreamcast, you remember those days? Some of you probably are like, no. But there were different college football games, one for each console. Now it's just EA and college football, or it was EA and college football. But I remember that would come out close to August, and I would look forward to getting that game every year, sort of a birthday gift. And, yeah, for a lot of players, a lot of older players, they're still playing the old game. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's something that will make a lot of people happy, that the return of college football on the video game side. There is an audience for it. There is a definite audience for it, and with it coming back, I mean, you're going to have video game Jones C. Edwards Stadium. I can remember having the version with Randy Moss in it. Yeah, going back to the 90s, late 90s, I remember having the version where it was Randy Moss. It might have been 96. I think that might have been the version. And I would just send him wide. Throw the ball deep, touchdown. Couldn't stop him. Randy Moss in college football on the PlayStation was the equivalent of Bo Jackson and Timco Bowl, if you remember that game, going back a ways. He was the video game equivalent of Bo Jackson, Timco Bowl. Or Jeremy Roenick in NHL, I think it was 94. I know I'm going back a way just a little bit, but I'm with the texter. That's a good thing. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. More coming up on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Thursday, May 4th edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour, 304-396-8255, 304-396-TALK. That's our number to be a part of the program. We've got a busy night of sports. NBA action, Game 2 tonight. Lakers taking on Golden State, 9 p.m. Lakers lead that series 1-0. Stanley Cup action yesterday. The New Jersey Devils lost to the Carolina Hurricanes, 5-1. Edmonton Oilers played against the Knights and lost there 6-4. And that's despite the Oilers' Leon Draisaitl scoring 4 goals. Tonight's action in the NHL Game 2 will feature the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs in the Eastern Conference. 7 o'clock tonight. Florida lead that series 1-0. Western Conference, Seattle Kraken at the Dallas Stars, 9:30 tonight. Both those games on TNT with the Lakers on ESPN. Seattle leads the series 1-0. As we mentioned, the Rays swept the Pirates earlier this afternoon. Tomorrow, the Pirates will take on Toronto. We'll have that game for you Friday night right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Other scorers of note in baseball, the Padres beat the Reds yesterday 7-1. The Reds are off today, taking on the White Sox tomorrow, and Cleveland's off today as well as the Yankees beat the Guardians 4-3. High Point beat Charleston, speaking of the Dirty Birds, yesterday 11-1. Wrap up of that series is tonight at 6:35. And as we mentioned, Marshall baseball on Wednesday fell to Virginia Tech 5-3. Marshall's home this weekend. Will play host to James Madison, 3-game Sun Belt Conference Series. That's going to be at Go Mart Ballpark starting tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And then for softball, Thundering Herd opening up its final Sun Belt Conference Series of the season. That starts today at 6. Going to be at Georgia Southern. And I don't know if you knew this, the Thundering Herd did receive a vote in this week's USA Today NFCA Top 25 College Softball Poll. So some progress there for the Thundering Herd. Some things you need to know about that softball series. I feel good about it because Marshall holds a 17-7 all-time series lead over Georgia Southern and has won has won the last 8 meetings, not 8 of, the last 8. Thundering Herd's been pretty good. 40-9 this season, 14-5 in Sun Belt play, trying to get one of the top seeds in Sun Belt championships. Sydney Nestor continues to impress. She's got an ERA of 1.12 and 202 strikeouts this season. She is definitely impressed. Autumn Owen has hit 18 home runs and 65 RBI this spring. Georgia Southern, I'm not saying this is a gimme for the Herd, but Georgia Southern is 17-31 overall. They're just 6-15 in Sun Belt play, but they can clinch a spot in the Sun Belt Championships with a win this weekend. So Marshall has an opportunity to keep them out. If you can get a sweep, you're going to shut them down, and of course you're going to help secure your spot in the tournament. I like the Herd's chances here. I think Marshall still is one of the teams you need to contend with for the championship. Not taking anything away from Louisiana, but I think Marshall has a serious chance here to win its first team championship in the Sun Belt. This is the team. This is Marshall's best shot right now to win a championship in the Sun Belt. You'd like to have one team championship. Your first year, you're in new league. You came close with basketball, and I think that's what really stings. Is Marshall came close to winning a regular season crown. And then Marshall, after losing that opportunity, did not respond well and came back and just laid an egg. Absolutely, just laid an egg. And I think that's what a lot of Herd fans are stinging over right now. And then I know there have been player rumors. I'm not going to really get into those because, honestly, they are what they are. They're just rumors. There's nothing that is really official to talk about as far as certain players staying or going with the Thundering Herd. But I will acknowledge it's been out there. I got several texts from people that saw it on Twitter and just lost it. And my response to them was, hey, look, there's really nothing you can say right now. it's not official until it's official. You can talk about it, you can speculate about it, but it really doesn't do anything because there's nothing to announce. There hasn't been a social media post to talk about. There hasn't been an official release on anything, a player's leaving. The only thing, and this really got a lot of people worked up a little bit, Andrew Taylor putting out on Instagram that he was going to declare for the draft. And I thought, okay, good on him. And people didn't understand, after we'd been through this with Tavion, people still didn't understand what that really meant. What that meant was that he is going to take an opportunity to have some evaluations done. He's going to receive feedback. He's going to receive guidance. And based off that feedback and guidance, he will know what to work on. It's an opportunity for a player to get outside feedback and try to improve. If you get an evaluation that says, hey, look, you're going to be a first rounder, you're going to be a top 5 pick, then you leave. You leave Marshall. You take that opportunity. If you're a player like Andrew Taylor, and this isn't a slight on Andy, but nobody's taking him top 5. He's not a lottery pick. So he's going to do the best thing he can do. He's going to get an evaluation. What's going to happen is he's going to get a lot of information and know what he needs to work on and what he can do to improve himself. And then he's going to apply that and hopefully be a better basketball player. I mean, we've seen Tavion do it. We've seen John Elmore do it. Players have done it before to get evaluations, to see where they stand. I mean, that's great. It's fantastic that you can do that and still come back. I mean, it would be something else to have that type of evaluation for a lot of sports. How many times have we seen players leave early? Now the new leaving early is just going into the transfer portal. But how many times have we seen players declare and leave early, then go nowhere? When if you've got a fair and honest evaluation, what if NBA scouts told you, hey, look, you're really talented, but you're not coming to the show. You're good, but you're not going to be good enough to get a draft selection. Maybe you might make the developmental league, but you're not good enough. But here's what you need to work on. Here's what you can improve on to try to close the gap, to borrow a term from Charles Huff. So, and this goes back again, NIL. That's going to change the landscape. Players might not be able to make it to the next level, but there are going to be opportunities at the college ranks. Because, again, you can be an amazing college player and not be a good pro. You can be a fantastic pro and maybe not been the best college player. It's very possible. So if there are opportunities for you at the college level, you're going to take it. But I saw this stuff with Andy, and I thought, well, first of all, yeah, he's doing the best thing he can do for himself. He's getting a proper evaluation. And then there's the rumors that follow around with him. And I've been leery to talk about it just because, well, there's nothing there to talk about right now. I mean, players are going to make evaluations all the time. I mean, we can't just stop and talk about every single player on the roster making evaluations, putting feelers out there, exploring options. We would be talking about nothing but all of that. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. And, of course, if you lose a player, you got to learn how to replace that player. Again, the transfer portal, not necessarily the transfer portal is where you lose players, but for the most part, transfer portal is a place that is a free marketplace, just about. It's a free marketplace. It's an open market. Players are going to, in this day and age, do what's best for them. What is the best opportunity for players? Where will the player get the best experience? Where will the player get the best opportunities? I mean, before it was a school was interested in you, and based on the schools that were interested in you, you chose and you took the better offer. Honestly, if Marshall offered a scholarship, Marshall offered, and then you look at some of the other offers on the table, and let's just say it's, I don't know, say it's Eastern Kentucky. Marshall and Eastern Kentucky. Okay, kids get an offer from Marshall, kids getting an offer from Eastern Kentucky. Well, Eastern Kentucky might have something academically that kid wants, so that's going to be the best offer for them. Marshall might have something academically that kid wants, and so that's going to be the best offer for them. Or all things might be equal, player might connect with the coaching staff better at Eastern Kentucky, so that's going to be the better offer. Might connect with the coaching staff at Marshall, that's going to be the better offer. I mean, there's so many ways you can look at this here. Now you throw name, image, and likeness into this, and so there's stupid money being thrown around. There's stupid opportunities being thrown around. And it's going to be a competitive landscape. It hasn't got to the point yet where you're just writing checks. It's not just, okay, here it is. I mean, we haven't get to the point where players are employees of the university. We haven't done that just yet. But, yeah, there still needs to be some regulation to this. But if a player's got an opportunity to take advantage of, I can't fault the player for taking advantage of that opportunity. If it's going to be something that's going to elevate them, give them a step up, because honestly, I've seen it time and time again. As far as fans are concerned, if a player's not living up to expectations, fans are quick to say, get rid of them. If a university's not living up to expectations, why can't the player say, I'm going to get rid of that and go somewhere else? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. And then that makes it important, of course, for the university to make sure that the experience and everything is the very best it can be. Make sure that what you're doing is the very best, and then push it forward some more. And I don't think you can just throw cash at this situation as well. You got to have a complete experience for the student athlete, because again, I might be naive, but I do think it's about the student athlete experience. NIL is going to be a big part of it. We'll get your thoughts again, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Thursday, May 4th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Feels like a Wednesday, doesn't it? It's Thursday, I know, but it feels like a Wednesday. We've got softball coming up with baseball tomorrow. Thundering Herd looking okay against Virginia Tech. I'd like to see more of that. That's kind of effort I'd like to see, but that's what we've got going on. It's been really a quiet sports day. I know the Derby's coming up this weekend. That's just not my thing. I've tried to get into the horse racing, and it's just not my thing. Is that yours? I mean, is that still something that people get excited for? I think people get more excited just to go and dress up and wear the stupid hats and do all the pageantry stuff that the Kentucky Derby is all about. I'm not that person. Never have been. So I'm just not. I've tried. It's not exciting. I've watched it. I've really not been into it. Even when we had a Triple Crown winner, I'm not into it as well. But I know that's going to be a big part of your weekend. And unfortunately, it's not a radio sport anymore. The network that controls the media rights, that's NBC, they're not offering it to radio stations. So the Kentucky Derby, which originally was on radio, is not being offered. So I don't know if that's a sign of the times with the way the Kentucky Derby has been going. So that's going to be a big part of your weekend. Of course, I'm going to be watching, playoff action, keeping an eye on everything. We've got, of course, baseball and softball to keep an eye on as well with Marshall. Our text line this hour, if you want to be a part of the show, is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's your number to be a part of today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So I think that's where I'm going to be tonight, especially with the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. That's a big one tonight. I think that's going to be probably your most watched event tonight. Can the Lakers make it 2 in a row? Can they take a commanding lead in this series? And how good has LeBron looked? I'm not saying he's classic at his prime LeBron, but I've really been impressed with the way the Lakers have looked so far. And so that's going to be a 9 o'clock tip on ESPN. We're going to have that game for you. That's coming up tonight. You can listen to it starting at 8:30, and it's right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So I think the Lakers are going to make at least a – I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers made it to the championship game. Absolutely would not be surprised whatsoever. And I think I'm pulling for Lakers and Knicks. I think that's what I want to see. I want to see Lakers and Knicks. Lakers-Celtics would be a little nostalgic for me. I would be there in a minute for that. We like the familiar, don't we? But I would like Lakers and Knicks. I like L.A. versus New York. That's the matchup I am interested in the most from the NBA. On the NHL side, I had Colorado, New York in my Stanley Cup final. I am done. That bracket is blown up. I mean, there's Seattle. I could root for the Kraken. I'm not rooting for Carolina. I'm not rooting for New Jersey. So Edmonton maybe. Edmonton, Toronto, I don't know. Florida, I'm a little lost right here. So I've been a few days removed from the NHL just because. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We got to take our final break, so let's go ahead and do that. When we continue, we'll get some of your text in. When we continue with this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to this Thursday, May 4th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line is open. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Hope you're enjoying the day today. We've got one more day of this tomorrow, and then we got the weekend to look forward to. Usually we've got Pirates baseball that we'll get into tonight. Unfortunately, that's not the case because the Pirates were in action earlier today. And the Pirates losing made it interesting toward the end. Unfortunately, Zach Eflin pitched 7 scoreless innings, and he struck out 10. He allowed just 3 hits. And the Rays swept the Pirates earlier today, 3-2. It was exciting toward the end. I almost thought that the Pirates might tie it up. It was close. I thought that the Pirates might give it a run, but the Pirates are now, they're in the midst of a 4-game losing streak. That's season high for them, but they're still leading the NL Central. Back in action, Toronto, Friday night. That'll be the next opponent for the Pirates. Catch that right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And then here in just a few minutes, if you can, you've got an opportunity to keep track of the Herd taking on Georgia Southern. That's the final Sun Belt Conference series for the Thundering Herd before the Sun Belt Conference tournament, where I hope Marshall can sweep this series. That would be good. If the Herd can, that's going to give Marshall a really prime spot in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. You want to be one of the top seeds, and I think Marshall can finish it out strong against Georgia Southern. And if that's the case, you might see Marshall, Louisiana in a championship game. That could happen. I would love to see that. And maybe the conference would as well. So 6 o'clock tonight for Marshall softball. Thundering Herd on its way to being one of the top seeds. Got to take care of business first against Georgia Southern. I think the squad will. I'll tell you what, Marshall, for the most part, has looked like it could be the team. I don't want to say it's the team to beat because Louisiana is probably going to be the team to beat if we're just being honest with ourselves. But Marshall could be that team that could beat Louisiana if Marshall plays well. 40-9 this season, 14-5 in the Sun Belt. That's the record I'm more impressed with. 14-5 in Sun Belt. And Marshall's got an opportunity to add to that. And if Sydney Nestor can get really hot, I mean, she's only got an ERA of 1.12. And she's had 202 strikeouts this season. If she could get hot down the stretch, I think that would bode well for the Thundering Herd. Maybe Autumn Owen can rocket a few more out. She's already got 18 home runs. If Marshall can do a few things, get the offense really going here over these next few games, Marshall's got a legitimate shot here. I'm not just saying that. I think Marshall's got a legitimate shot. Georgia Southern, not going to be an easy one, but they're 17-31. They're 6-15 in Sun Belt play. I think Marshall's got a good shot here taking on Georgia Southern. And then we'll see what happens with Marshall baseball, hosting James Madison at Go-Mart Ballpark. We'll see what happens. That's going to be an interesting series, to say the least. I want to see how Marshall responds. I thought the Thundering Herd didn't give up, played okay against Virginia Tech. So can Marshall translate that into a little bit more success against James Madison? That's going to be at Go-Mart Ballpark. If you're going to the game, remember it's cashless. If you are going to Charleston for any of the games this weekend, it's cashless. So they will give you a cash card if you have cash. You don't want to use your credit card. You don't want to use your debit card, your bank card, whatever. They will take your cash, but they're going to give you a cash card that you're going to have to use to spend. So that means concessions and everything else. So no more cash at the ballpark. You think Marshall's going to go to that eventually? Go to everything digital, complete. I'm talking to everything. It's happening more and more. Now you have digital tickets. Are we going to see just cash not be accepted at ballparks anymore. And I can't believe that we're going to go to that, honestly. It's easier if you want to if someone's coming down the stairs hawking the beverages or hawking whatever, the vendors are coming down, the ones that go through the crowd. Hey, I want to buy a beer. Okay, you're going to have to fiddle with your app now or something. Because I don't think we got to the point yet where you can just make your orders in your app and then they'll bring it to your seat. I don't think we've gotten to that point yet at Jones C. Edwards. I mean, wouldn't that be something, though? If you could you can make the order and they bring it to you? I thought that was just the most amazing thing when I went to one of the first games in Columbus to see the Blue Jackets. I went up to see the Blue Jackets play the Islanders. And I got corner seats up in the club section, and I mean this is when the building was new, and I thought that was the neatest thing, that I could just make my order right there on the touch screen and they'll bring it to me. I don't think you can necessarily do it on that level with some of the other seats, but we might be getting to that point. I know we got a little bit off topic. That's okay. Don't forget, podcast available all the time. You can get the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget social media as well. On Twitter at Paul Swann. You can find me there. Sometimes we have show updates. Sometimes we have show notes. Everything you possibly could want, we've got it for you. So best place to start is following the podcast. Follow me on social media. And we'll be back with you here tomorrow on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Don't forget, we got basketball coming up tonight. It's going to be the Lakers and the Warriors. That is set for 8:30, our airtime, 9 o'clock first tip here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And then we'll have Pirates baseball for you tomorrow evening. So the Pirates will be taking on Toronto. We've got a full slate of games to talk about tomorrow. Hopefully we can talk about softball getting its first victory over Georgia Southern. That's what we're looking forward to tomorrow. But that's tomorrow, and this is today. And again, don't forget, Twitter at Paul Swann, podcast, The Drive with Paul Swann, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for tuning in here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.